and welcome to the Coffee and Sports Morning Show. It is the place to be every morning here at Sports Empire Network. Gentlemen, good morning. We are joined today by Freddie. Freddie, how are you this morning, sir?
Oh man, anytime I could be on a show with Mo, Chris, get up early in the morning, get the blood boiling a little bit, I'm good.
And of course, we got Mo Betta here. Mo, how's it going this morning?
Doing well, doing well. Ready to go, guys.
Gentlemen, let's start off this morning. We're just going to go through some headlines real quick. The first headline is the Tampa Bay Rays shortstop Wander Franco. He is not traveling with the team as the MLB looks into allegations that he was dating a 14-year-old girl. Over the weekend, photos of Franco and the teen surfaced in which they appear to be acting like a couple. She was wearing his famous number 5 necklace, and aside from that, there were posts from her saying that he stopped paying the hush money. Hopping over to Team USA, Team USA topped Spain in their third pre-World Cup warm-up. Jalen Brunson went 9 for 9 from the field. He led Team USA with 21 points. Team USA is now 3-0 in their pre-World Cup warm-up tour with 2 more scheduled games before the big tournament starts. In the world of golf, Lucas Glover won the FedEx St. Jude Championship over the weekend, his second straight win over the last 2 weeks. That moved him from 119th in the world to 30th. He's also made about $5 million the past 2 weeks, which, not too bad. The Atlanta Falcons cut linebacker Mykal Walker. He was a starter last year. He started 12 games for them. This would have been his 4th season in Atlanta. No specific reason as to why they cut him, but they did draft and sign help in the linebacker department this past offseason, so that could have something to do with it. And then 5'5", 180-pound rookie running back Deuce Vaughn is making noise in Dallas. He had 8 carries for 50 yards. He rushed for a touchdown. He added 3 catches for 6 yards in Dallas's preseason loss. And gentlemen, that's kind of where I want to begin the morning off today. Dallas is talking a lot about this rookie running back, 5'5", 180. He made a little bit of noise in week 1 of the preseason. But Mo, is that really where the focus should be? If you are a Dallas Cowboy fan, should you be concerned about your backup running back behind Tony Pollard? Or should you be a little bit more concerned about your starting quarterback, Dak Prescott, who seems to not be able to stop throwing interceptions? The man throws picks during practice. He throws picks during training camp. He throws picks during the postseason. He throws picks during the regular season. He came out and said, I'm not going to throw any more picks. Does that change it, Mo? Because he came out and said, I'm done throwing picks, is Dak done throwing picks?
I was always taught well done is better than well said. So, look, I'm sure Dak came out with the mentality that he'd play well this year and he'd do much better than last season. He's talked the talk, and he's talked about chemistry with his other skilled position guys. He talked about making the offense more fluid, more impactful, more explosive. And then you get on the field in practice and you're struggling in practice. You're not doing even well in 7-on-7s. And then you'll get into the preseason and the offense is kind of stalled. When the highlight of a preseason game is your backup running back, and we're not talking about how smooth the offense looked in an initial drive, that's not a good thing at all. Not to say that we should not value what the young man did. He may very well turn out to be a special talent, but this is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, and everything you do when you're a team with the kind of talent they have on both sides of the ball, it starts with your quarterback. And if QB1 isn't playing well, isn't playing at a high level, then the Dallas Cowboys are going to have a disappointing season. And I'm sure Jerry Jones and company, the standard wasn't set that we're going to be mediocre. Not with all the woofing and all the talking that they do and their fan base does. Cowboys fans are unrealistic because they have expectations like a Laker fan or other fans who constantly win titles, whereas Dallas hasn't won a title since 95. It's been a minute. So I understand that everybody wants to talk about the rookie, but with Dak struggling, with the offense stalling, that's where the concern should be. QB1's not playing well. Dallas is not looking good heading into the season.
And guys, we're going to talk a little more about Dak later on in the show. But one thing that stood out to me over the past week was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys coming out and being very transparent, which I love transparency, but he was being transparent saying, we're going to put more on Dak's plate. We want Dak to be more of a playmaker in the NFL. Freddie, do you think playmaker and Dak Prescott go together in the same sentence?
No, that's why I believe that running back having a good night is very important. Let's not get it twisted, you guys. When Dak Prescott had his best season was his first year in the league, and what was the scheme? Run the ball with Zeke, and Dak make plays when he needs to make plays. That's just the bottom line. That I've been saying that they need to go back to that style of football, more of a run the football type team, depend on their defense, and then let Dak make big plays on third downs. But when you try to put the ball in his hands and you ask for him to do too much, that's when the problems come. The offense is not fluid enough for him to where he can control the game. He's not like a Josh Allen where he can do everything. But they need to kind of make him be more of a game manager style quarterback, like a Jimmy G role, depend on the run game and depend on that defense. But I mean, Mo, I disagree with you on one thing. The Cowboys don't have Super Bowl aspirations. They've been talking for 28 years, sir. I mean, they can talk, but they definitely not ready to walk. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, this is a team. I mean, if they don't get it done this year, if they don't go far this year, how weak the NFC is this year, they're done. They are done. You don't have to worry about the Rams anymore. You don't have to worry about Green Bay anymore. You don't have to worry about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers anymore. You don't have to worry about a lot of teams that they had to worry about in the last few years. So they should be able to go far this year. And if they don't, it's on them. They are done. And there's no more excuses. No, the Cowboy fans, it will be no more excuses because you're supposed to get the job done this year. Not saying Super Bowl, but at least go further than you have in recent 28 years of you being irrelevant.
And Freddie, you're right. Dak's two greatest seasons were also two seasons in which Zeke led the league in rush attempts, and he was in the top 3 in rushing yards. And I believe he actually led the league in rushing Dak's first year in the league. And if he didn't lead it the second time, he was right up there and he was close to it. And then if you look at Dak's second season in the league, Zeke missed the first 5 or 6 games of that season because he was out with a suspension. And if you just look at that stretch, 5 touchdowns, 7 picks. So Dak literally went from looking like a Pro Bowl future Super Bowl type quarterback his first year in the league with Dallas. Zeke's not there. It looks a little bumpy. And things are just going to get bumpier for Dallas this season because there's a lot of little drips, right? Offensive line isn't as great as it used to be. Zeke's not there anymore. Uncertainty here, uncertainty there. McCarthy's calling plays again. Drip, 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 drip. And eventually, if the solution is just give Dak more, I don't know if that's the solution we should be talking about. But we're going to jump over to Indianapolis right now. Good news, if you're a Colts fan, it looks like Jonathan Taylor is going to be reporting to camp this week, which is a great sign. There was some speculation that because of his contract situation and Irsay choosing to save Dolphins as opposed to paying his players, that we might not see Jonathan Taylor at camp. We might not see Jonathan Taylor during the season. We didn't know what that was going to look like. But now it looks like he's going to come to camp, which means that he's probably going to play. So, Freddie, I'm not saying the Colts are a good team, but if you look at that division and you look at the caliber of running back that Jonathan Taylor is, will his presence this season, assuming he stays healthy, keep the Colts in potential to compete for that division, or does it not matter whether he's there or not?
I mean, they'll be relevant because of him. I'm not going to say they're going to win a division. I'm not going that far, but I'm just going to speak on the running back situation. It's really not a good look for the running backs. And I definitely understand the organization standpoint, the league standpoint, not the organization standpoint, the league standpoint of why they don't pay running backs because they don't last long like other positions on the football field. I understand that. But I mean, it's coming to a point, man, where these guys argue. We just seen what happened to Saquon Barkley, and I just felt like that Saquon should not have returned to the football field. Should not return to the Giants. Make them pay you. Make them value your worth. Jonathan Taylor, you take a stand. You take a stand about not reporting, not want to do this, and then you cave in. That's why the owners like the Colts are the way they are. Because I mean, hey, at the end of the day, I wouldn't have came back. You would have to pay me. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is one of those special style running backs. But now this hurts the running back market even more because now the owner's like, well, they'll get a little mad, but they'll come back. Um, and I agree, Gene. They do lose a lot of money sitting out, but sometimes you have to. I always say, get uncomfortable to get comfortable. And if that, he's a big part of that team. I really do believe that eventually that somebody had to cave, and I always say who in business, whoever say the first word is the one that's going to cave. And Jonathan Taylor, he was the first person to cave, and now he's probably the one that's going to take the L in this situation. I really hate it for the running backs. I wish the league would do something about it to help change this narrative because they are the one that takes the most beating on the football field. They are the one that their body takes the most wear and tear, as much running as they do. Not just running, they also block. They also catch the football out on the backfield. There are a lot of things that these running backs do, a part of an offense that they're just not being as valuable as the way that they need to do.
And Mo, one of the things that was discussed on Sunday Morning Drive yesterday was what happens as a whole this year with running backs when it comes to injuries. The running backs have already said they floated out the idea. Maybe if we're not feeling 100%, maybe we don't play. Maybe if they list us as questionable going into the week, we just give it an extra week or two until our bodies really feel good and we can go out there and operate at our ultimate level. Mo, do you see that being a trend this season? And what impact could that have on the position in the league as a whole moving forward?
I think there's a potential for that trend. I do. But I still think in the bigger picture, it's the wrong move. They've we just talked about Dallas's rookie running back standing out and playing well. Well, if he continues to play well, who's to say that he won't be their starting running back? Who's to say they won't move on from Paul? I guess my point is it's a lot easier in this kind of relationship with where the league is at is to move on from a running back, not just an average running back, but a 1,500-yard running back. They can just move on from. If you take a stand and go, I'm not feeling 100% because my ankle is sprained, they'll understand if they truly believe you're hurt. But if within the locker room, within the organization, they think that you're just like trying to prove a point, they'll eventually move on from you. And it's not like you benefit where you're going to go, well, I'll just go to another team that values me. Throughout the league right now, they don't value you. Dalvin Cook's unemployed, and he's still one of the best running backs in football, and he's unemployed. That goes to show you where you're at right now. They're not in a situation where they can win doing that type of thing. They really need to get with their union, get with the PA, and have a conversation about what can be done in future negotiations where maybe they can get paid more upfront that way instead of waiting for that second contract, which usually teams go, they look at you and you're 26 and you're 27, even if you're coming off a big season, the gamble is you're about to hit that wall, right? Where you become a guy who's not as quick, not as elusive, and you take more hits. And they don't want to be committed to a guy making $18 million a year who's just an average running back because they can replace you with an average running back. So I just think they're in a tough position. to try to do any kind of protest, if you will, because big picture, it won't benefit them. It won't benefit any of them across the league. Jonathan Taylor just happens to be attached to the worst owner in football. So it for sure won't benefit him. If he's trying to play a game of chicken, wrong owner to do that with. You will not win.
And I just want to say this. Um, it just really sucks to see Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, guys like that has to suffer by organizations that have not been relevant in a while on the winning side of things. And you would just think those teams that have not won anything in a while will say, you know what, we're gonna take care of our star player. John should be like, you know what, this star player just took us to the playoffs, won a playoff game, and then you don't take care of your best player. I'm just saying. Uh, I know they're making money. I'm just talking about suffering in the winning aspect of things. The Giants haven't won anything in 10 plus years. The Colts haven't won anything since Peyton Manning was there. So I mean, it's been a minute. So I'm just saying, it just sucks, and a lot of it had to do on Saquon Barkley's part. I 100% agree with that because the first year in the league he came out looked like the best back in football, and after that he's been dealing with injuries. Last year he had a good season, he had a great season, but it is what it is, I guess.
And one group in the NFL who is not worried about money is the quarterback group. They're bringing in bags left and right. One guy who's in a new place this season is Derek Carr. He is with the New Orleans Saints now, and he made his preseason debut this weekend. And gentlemen, he looked pretty good. He went 6 for 8, 70 yards, he had a touchdown. In fact, all of the Saints quarterbacks looked pretty decent. They all threw touchdown passes. They all had decent completion percentages. Mo, is the Saints offense with Derek Carr gearing up to be one of the best offenses in the NFL this season?
I think they'll be a good offense. I'm not sure they're going to be one of the best offenses because I really don't know what they're going to do at the wide receiver position. We know what the young man did in his rookie year. We wonder about what you're going to get from Thomas, right? You don't know what version of him you're going to get. But I don't think they need to be a top 5, 6 offense to be the winner of that division. I really don't. I just think they need to be a solid offense that can lean on that defense. If Derek Carr does one thing this season, if he takes care of the football, he doesn't have to throw 40 touchdown passes, but let's say he throws 25 or 28 and he has 6 or 7 picks and the run game is solid, that will be enough for them to win that division with that defense. So I think the offense will be solid, but I don't know if it's going to be one of the top offenses in football.
Freddie, looking at everything Carr went through with the Raiders, a lot of dysfunction, a lot of turmoil. He still put up decent numbers, right? You know, they had a couple of things here and there that were shining moments. Now he's with New Orleans. If he leads the Saints to the playoffs, let's say they win the division, they go to the playoffs, regardless of how far they get. Freddie, coming out of this season, would you view him as a top 10 or 12 quarterback in this league, or does he need to do more than that?
I kind of already have Derek Carr. No, I don't. I don't have my top 10. But yeah, I think at one point in his career, I believe Derek Carr was top 10. At one point of his career when he's with the Raiders. Now, the last couple of years, I just think people don't look at him the same just because how the Raiders have done, and a lot of that has nothing to do with him. I mean, he can't help that. You know, his receivers can't stay can't stay out of trouble off the field. He can't help that part. But I believe if he leads this Saints team to win that division, go to the playoffs, I think he will start, entering in that conversation again. But it's not going to be easy, guys. We have a lot of great quarterbacks in this league. It can even be to a situation where he leads them to the playoffs, and we still don't think of him as a top 10 quarterback in this league because Alvin Kamara will be back. I think he only have like a 2-game suspension. He will be back. And what if they get to the playoffs because he just go crazy and have an amazing season because of the run game, because of the defense. But I'm just saying there's a lot of great quarterbacks in the league that he can get shot up by. Hold on, Mo, you muted, brother.
I was gonna say, doesn't it work both ways? This division is set up for him to win the division. Like it should be the Saints' division to win. If they don't win the division, I'm sure it's going to have something to do with what QB1, what he does. If he doesn't win this division, I actually think he goes the other way, where he falls further down the ladder and becomes less relevant. I've never been a big Derek Carr fan. I think he's a good quarterback, but I never saw him as an elite quarterback. I just never saw that in him. He seems like the kind of guy who wants to be a great leader, but both things can be true. He might be a great leader and just not a great player. So I think this is a big critical season for him going forward. Because if they don't win this division, I think all eyes are going to be on Derek Carr.
And gentlemen, we got a couple of quarterback situations this preseason where we kind of know one guy may not be there when the regular season starts. And one of those situations is in San Francisco with Trey Lance. Now, I don't know if you all saw this, but Sam Darnold's basically been anointed the next Steve Young. Kyle Shanahan has more or less said that he sees some Steve Young in Sam Darnold, and he's going to untap that potential. So if that continues to go as planned, you would have to assume that's going to make Trey Lance the odd man out, which means the next couple of weeks are an audition for Trey Lance for whatever team he might be going to next. That being said, he needs to perform well in the audition if a team is going to trade for him. Because the last thing that San Francisco wants is to have to cut him because he didn't show enough in the preseason, and now they're getting nothing back considering everything they gave up to acquire him in the first place. A lot of picks. And hey, as a Dolphin fan, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Anytime,
the picks were fantastic. I loved it. But if you look at, and again, I know that there's some people on this network who thinks that Trey Lance is a franchise quarterback. But when you look at Trey Lance's tape, where is the spectacular, Mo? Because I watched the game, I watched the highlights back, and he does some of the basic things fine. I get it. But when you watch Mahomes in the preseason, before he was what he is now, when you watch Lamar his rookie season, you saw glimpses, right? Even when you watch Josh Allen year one, there was a lot of things he didn't do well. But there were moments where you were like, holy cow, look at that. If they could just clean up this other nonsense, he might be a good quarterback. I watched Trey Lance's tape. Granted, it's limited, but what's spectacular there? And if you're just looking at the box score, Mo, yeah, he threw a touchdown pass that should have been a pick six.
Could have been a pick.
He threw it directly to a defensive player who couldn't catch the ball, and it ricochets to his tight end, and it's a touchdown. Is there spectacular with Trey Lance?
Spectacularly lucky, maybe. But I've watched Trey Lance since the Niners drafted him. And let me just say ahead of time, I didn't want them to draft him. I'd never honestly heard of the guy. I'd never heard of him. He kind of came out of nowhere to me. He just didn't have – there wasn't enough tape. There wasn't enough on him. And then you looked at the competition that he played against. I just didn't see it. I never saw it. And for them to go all in and cash in all those picks on the guy, and now you look at him and you look at where he's at, he is the third quarterback on that team. There's no doubt about it, which means he's probably going to be the odd man out. They've invested so much in him that once they have to move on for him, that kind of pick that you don't hit on, they don't say it, not out in public, but quietly, it does impact your franchise for 8 to 10 years. It does. It really does. It's a setback. It's a major setback. And I thought Sam Darnold looked very good, but you were comparing him to Trey Lance. He looked great. I think Sam Darnold will do well in Kyle Shanahan's system because Kyle Shanahan, more times than not, he can coach a quarterback up. He can maximize their strengths and hide their weaknesses. So I think Darnold will do well. I'm not sure he's going to be better than Purdy. I actually think Purdy's the perfect fit because I would say Purdy is a game manager who has the ability to make big plays. So I like what Purdy can do for them in that offense. I've watched Trey Lance, and I can honestly say I would be shocked. I would be shocked if he didn't get released or traded.
Freddie, what's the market for Trey Lance? Is there a pending injury? Obviously, injury can change everything, but is there a team out there right now that might be looking at Trey Lance being like, hey, he might be worth a fifth or a sixth just to see what he has in our organization? Or is it just a situation where Shanahan thought too big of himself and he's just a bust?
That's happened before.
Yeah, if I was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I mean, at this point, it don't hurt to look. Don't hurt to experiment. I mean, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do after Tom Brady. I don't think Baker Mayfield is the answer. So there's a couple spots there. But I want to say this, y'all. I think we're overrating Purdy. And I think Purdy's a decent quarterback. But he went on one good run, okay? He went on one good run. And just like most said, we've seen Kyle Shanahan many times turn a quarterback, make them look better than what they really are. Okay, I think you got to give guys time, you guys. What happened to us letting players develop? What happened to letting players get comfortable within the game? I understand he's playing for a team that wants to win the Super Bowl now. I definitely understand that. But the dude was hurt. Let's see what he can do. We know what Sam Darnold can do. We've seen him with the Jets. We've seen him with the Panthers. We've seen it. He is what he is. He is what he is, and that ain't changing. He has not lived up to expectations. Purdy had one good run. He had a real good run last year. But can we say that was all him? Or can we say it's because of that run game and that defense? Yeah, he made big plays on third down. But who's the coach again? I'm still rocking with Trey Lance. You drafted him high in the draft. You haven't paid him yet, so it's not costing you as much against your cap. You just have to
get paid.
You have to do your due diligence and see what he has in the tank.
I would say this: the problem with that is what you're seeing so far. It's not good. You're a team that's built to win now. They don't have time to wait for this guy to develop. Like the idea of putting him in and having him as your starting quarterback, that signals to your fans, we're built to win now, but we're gonna let this guy start, and we might go 6-11 or something like that. That's not the plan. The truth is, it looks like he's not ready to play, and if he's not ready to play, they got to move on. I understand you want to wait for a guy to develop, but you know what? The amazing thing about sports is there's the guy that gets drafted in the top 5 with all the expectations, and they don't always live up to it. Then there's the guy that get drafted dead last, like Brock Purdy, and he becomes somebody. That story, as unique as it is, we've heard it before. Tom Brady wasn't a top pick. He wasn't high on anybody's list. I saw everybody seen that combine. That's one of the hideous combine things I've ever seen. And now he's the GOAT. He's the guy. I'm not saying Trey Lance can't ever have an NFL career. What I am saying is this team is built to win now. No matter what he may or may not do in the preseason, he's not starting. He absolutely is not starting. And I'm not sure he's a credible backup right now. So if he wants to develop, he better hold that chart, get in his playbook, and get a lot better in practice. Because he's not going to play during the regular season unless, because we can't predict unless injuries come up. But right now, he's not ready to play.
Let me ask you a question, Mo. I'm playing devil advocate right now, okay? What happened if Purdy come out there and, like I said, last year was a fluke season, and he comes out there and he looked god awful? Then what's the next plan?
Can he build off of what he did last year? Sure, but could he come back a little bit to earth? Maybe. But if he came back to earth, he'd still be levels better than Trey Lance. And let me play devil advocate. Look at it from this point of view. Danny Dimes had one good run. He had one good season. He was okay. And all of a sudden, he's the next best thing. And we're talking about levels to this. They're talking about Danny Dimes being a Pro Bowl quarterback The man threw for 15 touchdowns and 11 picks. We're killing Russell Westbrook for Russell Wilson for throwing for 15 touchdowns and 11 picks. I'm just saying, there's levels to this. How do you know that Danny Dimes doesn't come back and look like the guy from the year before last because he had one good run?
Can I answer that? Is that a question I can answer? Easily. And every year in Daniel Jones' career, he's gotten better. Every year in his career, he's gotten better. So
how good was he the year before last? How good was he the year before last? Because that's one of his years, right? How good was he the year before last?
That's why I said every year he's getting better.
Well, he didn't get better. What happened was Saquon Barkley got better. He got healthy.
Well,
After he got better. He got better because he has one of the best running backs in football.
The first year in Daniel Jones' career, he had a pretty solid career. What
was his numbers again?
He had a solid season. I'm not going to say he had a great season. It was a solid season. He had problems with fumbling the football. That was a problem. The second year, he did digress. But the third year, he did get better last year. So it seems like he's getting better. And he's the second best quarterback in the division. In the NFC East, he's the second best quarterback in the division.
You really believe that? You really believe that?
Yes, Dak Prescott have a problem, yes.
Look, I know Dak is struggling and he's bad. I still think he's a better quarterback than your guy.
I'm going to tell you why.
Your guy is dependent mostly on his athleticism. And it's great that he's got wheels, but eventually guys with wheels, they get hit. And when they get hit, then they got to rely on their arm. And right now, what I know about Daniel Jones is he can't throw you open. He's not that kind of quarterback. He can't throw you open. He is dependent upon his run game. He's dependent upon Saquon Barkley. He's dependent upon the ability to go play action and a wide receiver or tight end be wide open. Not because he threw them open, because they were wide open. There's a big difference. So I don't think your guy is that good a guy. No, I'll tell you what, I want to have this conversation again throughout the season. I'm going to tell you, barring injuries, and I can't stand the Cowboys, Dak's going to have a better year than your guy.
I disagree 100% with that.
Of course you do.
But check this out. I'm gonna give you some education. I didn't think I had to come in here and go to Freddie's school teaching class, but I'm about to go to the teaching class and teach you a few things more better. But let's check this out, brother. I disagree with you talking about Daniel Jones don't have an arm. He most definitely have an arm.
No, I'm not talking about his arm strength. I'm talking about accuracy. He's not a really good thrower of the football.
We're going to see that this year because this is the first time that he actually have a legitimate weapon on the field outside of Saquon Barkley with Darren Waller. So now we will definitely see a lot about that.
Is Waller going to be on the field? Is he going to be able to play?
That's the plan. We got the best doctors in football. we making sure that he's taken care of. But what I'm saying is that he will have a better career than Dak Prescott because he does more for the Giants than Dak Prescott do for the Cowboys. What do I mean by that? Is that he's a better passer in the football than Dak. He's having a stronger arm than Dak. He's more athletic than Dak. And so far, he's more durable than Dak as well. And guess what? One thing we can't say is that Daniel Jones have never led the league in interceptions. Fumbling was his problem, not interceptions.
Well, we got to get through this season first before that can still hold up. As far as being a better thrower of football, no, he's not.
No, gentlemen, just to wrap it up, Daniel Jones, first season in the league, 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Like Freddie said, regressed his second season, 11-10. Then he bumped back up a little, 10-7. And then he had his most productive year this past season, 15-5. Plus, he had a lot more rushing yards than in previous seasons.
Chris, can we bring up Doug's last question? I want to answer that.
Go ahead,
answer Doug's question.
He said, has he won? Have Dak Prescott won? What has Dak Prescott won? How many can somebody please tell me how many playoff games Dak Prescott has won in his career? Is it 2?
I believe it's 2.
Oh, Daniel Jones been in the league less. And he already won one last year. Doug, what are you talking about, brother? Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott haven't won. Hey, brother, if you try to come in the debate, don't ever bring winning with a Cowboy. Because that ain't happening.
All right, gentlemen. We're going to...
Real quick, Chris.
Go ahead.
Judging by what the numbers you gave me is, the highlight of Daniel Jones' career is his rookie year. That's what you gave me.
Touchdown pass-wise, yes.
Well, yeah, everybody knows he's got wheels, but but you said 11 and something, and then 10 and
Yep.
7. I mean, and then
Yep.
he had last year 15 and 5. Like that guy right there, he reeks of mediocre. He's an incredible athlete, but as a quarterback, he reeks of mediocre.
He will have 25 touchdowns.
If he has 25
interceptions this
touchdowns,
year.
he's going to have double digits interceptions.
No,
Gentlemen, here's what I see.
Hold on, Chris. One last thing, Doug. See, Doug coming for me, Chris. I'm sorry, brother. He asked, has he won the division? How low has it got for the Cowboys to not even think about Super Bowls? They're not even thinking about the big championships games, but they worried about have they won divisions. That's how bad it's gotten for the Cowboys. Cowboy fans, I feel sorry for y'all. Y'all are miserable. Y'all are hurt. Y'all are devastated for reaping for a mediocre franchise in the last 28 years. I'm sorry. The expectations for Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith has gone. Those expectations are gone. All y'all worried about is winning a division. Please.
Gentlemen, I smell a bet brewing having to do with Daniel Jones's stats versus Dak Prescott's stats this season. I think you two might be involved. I think Big Time might be involved, but we will save that for another morning. We're going to jump somewhere that I don't think we've ever jumped to on the morning show before, and that is to the world of NASCAR, but it's actually going to be a bigger conversation. So the story starts in NASCAR, and it starts with a young driver, Noah Gragson. He was suspended by NASCAR for some social media activity that was discovered from a couple of years ago. He liked on Facebook. So, you go on Facebook, you see things, you can click the like button. So he liked something that was racially insensitive. He liked something having to do with the death of Floyd back a few years ago, and someone found it, screenshotted it, as we do in these days, and as a result, there was an uproar. He was suspended by his racing team. He has since asked for his release from his racing team so he can start to complete the reinstatement process back into the world of NASCAR, because NASCAR suspended him indefinitely until he goes through that process. But my question is this: stepping away from Noah and looking at athletes in general, what is your perspective when it comes to people digging up things like this? I know it's different and every situation is nuanced, right? So there's a difference between liking something that's inappropriate or saying something that's inappropriate. There's obviously a line there. I know we're going to clump things together here because we're only going to discuss it for a few minutes. But Mo, I want to start with you because we see this so much. We see these guys, they're coming into the league, they're coming out of college, and you can go year by year. It happens every single year. Someone who's going to go in the top 15 or the top 10 or the first round, someone cherry picks something from their social media from 4 years ago or 6 years ago, and it's a big story, and sometimes it hurts their draft stock and sometimes it doesn't. We saw it a couple of years ago with a rookie pitcher for the Atlanta Braves. Someone pulled something from when he was 16 or 17. Yes, it was inappropriate. The Braves cut him. Is that, in your opinion, what should be happening in the world? Should someone be teaching them better as they grow up? Because we all know that these athletes who make it to the pros, they're on that track from a young age, right? From 13, 14, 15 years old, they're on that mindset of, I want to play in the pros. They're doing all these different things. Is it on the people who are around them at that young age to make sure they're not doing this kind of nonsense? Where do you sit on that conversation as a whole, Mo?
So sure, you can be influenced by the people that are around you, by your parents, your coaches, the people like that. But you look at it from this point of view too, Chris. A lot of these athletes, these great athletes in all sports, they're rarely told what to do or told the word no, right? The people can see ahead of time. If you're special, they want to be on your good side, right? They want to be part of that. What I would say is, and I believe the NFL has some kind of mentorship program, or at least they used to. I think you have to get these young guys into the mentorship program, and you have to talk to them not about necessarily how they feel, but about how social media can work against you or with you, right? Like you press send on something or you like something that maybe be insensitive or be wrong in general. In these days, I don't care if you did it 10 years ago or 20 years ago, somebody, whoever that person is, somebody finds it. Somebody does. And they bring it back up, and you can get crushed in the media as if you did that day, as if you weren't 10 or 15 years younger or not more mature, not a completely different individual. So I'm sensitive to the fact that we want to kill guys for liking things or co-signing on things for when they were teenagers. A good example would be, I don't know if you remember this, Larry Nance Jr., before he got into the NBA, when he was in college, back in the day when they made the allegations against Kobe Bryant, he made some insensitive comments and almost implied that Kobe was guilty. And what happened? He ended up getting drafted to the Lakers, right? You don't think that was awkward walking in there to Kobe and having I mean, I'm just saying that who that young man was at 16 or 18 and who he is at 28, 30, it's different. I guess there should be accountability for your actions, but I don't know how you mitigate or how you hand out punishment for a deed that wasn't done in 2023, but was done 15 years ago. And it's not like an actual physical crime or something like that. It's just something that some in society would think I don't agree with, and some would go, I don't have a problem with it. I would have a problem with an insensitive racial comment, but I don't think I'd be like, your career's over because you kind of like that or you co-signed on that at that time in your life. Freddie, you're one of the people that always talk about second chances and giving everybody a second chance. I would take the same approach. I would talk to the young man. Where were you at then? Where are you at now? And remind him that social media is not your friend. For all the likes and stuff you get and the cosigns, there will be a mistake you make on something you liked or co-signed on, and somebody will find it and bring it back up at some point in your life. So I think a mentorship program is important, but I also think a better understanding of the difference between a young man 10 years ago and a grown man today, and the accountability level that they should have for those decisions. I don't think it should be to the point where you end a career unless you make something so insensitive, so out of pocket in present day, right now, today. If you said something or co-signed and liked a comment about someone passing away or something like that, you should face some kind of disciplinary an action. But if you say something like that, or had you said something like that 10 or 15 years ago, I don't think today, right now, today, your career should be over. Maybe you should have a conversation. Maybe somebody should talk to you about the process or where you were at back then. And like I said, where you're at now. But I don't think we should be so quick to give up on these young athletes because they may or may not have made a mistake in their past.
And Freddie, before you comment, Noah is 25 now. He made this comment when I believe he was 21, about to turn 22. So for perspective, 21 is the age you are when you're basically getting out of college or you're finishing up your last year of college. So that's kind of where he was in his track when he made that comment. And now it's coming up and having this repercussion, 3 or so years later. But Freddie, go ahead. The floor is yours.
I'm gonna say this, and I'm before I say what I got to say. I don't know too much about NASCAR, so I don't know about none of that stuff. So, but I'm just gonna give you my honest opinion. I think leagues are getting too sensitive, to the point where somebody like a tweet, they don't tell me which direction you're on. They don't tell me, oh, I support this or I don't support this. Few months ago, Kyrie Irving liked that tweet about the movie. Okay, that didn't tell nobody. It didn't say, "Oh, I'm Kyrie Irving. I support this." It could have been where he might have liked it, but it could have been where he didn't support it. We don't really know what the thoughts and intentions of a person is. So I don't like that part of we're attacking him just because he likes something on his social media. That's where to the point where we're getting a little bit too sensitive and just kind of really searching for too much. Two, and I hate this. I'm gonna use this as an analogy. If I'm gonna use myself, I could be bad in school, be a bad little kid, and people They're not. They're going to, when I get older, they're going to remember that. They'll say, "Oh, that's that bad little boy when he's in school." No, I could have changed since then. Like that was how long ago? I could have changed since then. I don't like. I just don't like that narrative. We need to have. People need to understand that people do grow from things. Now, how I would handle it is if I was a commissioner of a league, I say, okay, come to my office, let's talk. Hey, brother, I understand you put this out a few years ago. I understand. I understand where you was at. I just need to know, where do you stand now? Have you grown from that? Have you learned from that? And then based on that conversation, if I feel like he's learned from that and he's trending and he ever done anything like that recent, then you can't punish a guy for something that happened 4, 5, 6 years ago when he was not even in the league, when he was a kid. But if you feel that he still trend that way, still have those beliefs, then you can hold him accountable. But I mean, it comes a fine line. I mean, that's just really something really sticky. Honestly, like I said, Kyrie Irving liked the tweet of that movie. I would love to see Tom Brady like a tweet of like a tweet of the movie Roots or something like that, and see how people would react to it then. To see would they still hold him accountable like they held Kyrie Irving accountable. Same style of movie. Um, I don't know. It is the world we live in now. Doug did post that in the comments. I just everybody changes. Nobody's perfect. Everybody. I'm not the same person that I was 4 or 5 years ago when I was a kid. But I just don't. I'm like it is what it is. And I'm not trying to get too personal, and I apologize if I am. Like I said, I wasn't a bad kid. I was just a kid. I loved to joke around. I used to love to fit in people. I used to, like to have fun. But I've never been a kid where I was disrespectful or anything like that. Never that type of kid. Now I decide to do things in a positive way. I work in the church and stuff like that, and people be like, "Well, Freddie used to be this." You're right. I used to be that, but I learned from those things. I've gotten better at those things. But please don't judge me on my past. Judge me where I'm at now. And people fail to do that in today's world.
And gentlemen, that's such the beautiful thing about sports is we can have these conversations and we can look at things through the lens of people are just people. And sometimes there's bad people and sometimes there's good people who make bad choices. And I think that through these conversations, we can realize that not everything is as clear cut as the world sometimes wants to make it. And I think what Freddie said, really does fit the situation best. Life is sticky sometimes. And that's a really nice way of looking at it.
Oh, Chris, I'm sorry, brother. You brought something beautiful to me. I always say this.
Say it, sir.
And like I said, this might be a little sticky to a lot of people. What I'm about to say, I apologize. Please don't take this the wrong way. We always talk about police brutality and all this stuff. My position is there's good police, there's bad police. It's like it's good people, it's bad people. It's good people in the church, it's bad people in the church. That's the way I look at things, And that's how I've always said it.
I feel you. Someone had a really bad weekend this weekend, and that is Mr. James Harden. So Harden has been looking forward to getting out of Philadelphia. He's been looking to residents in Los Angeles and joining the Clippers, and we all just been kind of waiting for that to happen. When's it going to happen? What's the trade going to look like? We've heard rumors of who might be involved in the trade, and we're just kind of hanging out, waiting to see what happens with James Harden. Well, then come to find out this weekend, trade talks are over. We're done. Harden's not going anywhere. And of course, once that happens, we find out a little more. We find out that Harden's angry because he was told there was going to be some money coming his way that it didn't come his way. He thought the money situation was going to look a little different. Then we kind of find out that he was basically told the trade was going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when it comes together. Now he's being told there is no trade, and the situation you're in right now is where we're staying. So Harden comes back and says, I'm not coming. Morey's a liar. I'm not working for a liar. I'm not being part of an organization that he is a... Guys, they were like best friends like 2 weeks ago. They were buddies. Now, he won't even show up because he doesn't like the guy anymore. Mo, what's happening with Harden in Philly?
So it's no secret that he and Daryl Morey have had this love affair for the better part of over a decade since he was with the Rockets. But what happened is Daryl Morey was going to give him that money. He was going to give him that money. But the higher-ups told Daryl Morey they didn't think he was worth that money. They might even went as far as to say, if you give him that money, you're going to be out the door. Look, they can have a love affair, but at some point, Daryl Morey's got to look out for Daryl Morey. And the truth of the matter is, anybody looking on the outside knows you cannot give a 34-year-old, he's a point guard now, who isn't in the greatest of shape, is a declining player, still playing at a high level, but he's declining. You can't give him not just a max deal, but you can't give him a long deal. It's bad business, point blank. And I think at some point that friendship got strained when it became about the money. And when it became clear to James Harden that it wasn't going to happen with the money, I think he felt like Daryl Morey undercut him. And maybe that's what he did, but I think Daryl Morey had to do that just from a business perspective. It didn't make sense to give James Harden an extension, especially an extension for what he wanted. So I can understand James Harden's frustration, but I kind of thought this all along. If he was going to go to the Clippers, that's the only move I saw going forward where both teams would have got some kind of value. If he's not going to the Clippers, and there doesn't seem to be like a long line of teams lining up for James Harden's services, he's going to be back on the Sixers. And it's going to be interesting because the fan base can't stand him. And it's going to be interesting what kind of how he can mend fences with Embiid and his other teammates. Can he be professional enough to get on point, get on mission? Remember, this is a team that was one a game away from being in the Eastern Conference Finals. So it's not that they weren't good enough, they just couldn't get the job done. Going forward, though, I'm worried. How does that work? How do you make that work when you've got Tyrese Maxey, who's an ascending player, and you've got James Harden, a disgruntled, older, declining player, and in the middle of that is Joel Embiid? I'm not sure that works. You've got a brand new coach, too, in Nick Nurse. How do you make all those different things come together and get on point to try to make a championship run? I feel like Harden's going to remain in Philly, but I think big picture, it's a big mistake for the organization. Maybe you take the hit. Maybe you take the hit and you just move on from him. Maybe you don't get back equal value, but you get back something just to move him out of your city, because it doesn't seem like they want him there. I'm not even sure the Sixers as a whole want him on the roster, and he doesn't want to be there. That seems like a recipe for disaster, and they could prevent that by at least making a half decent move before we go into training camp.
And Freddie, that's my question for you. It seems like all the people involved, the team, the owner, Harden, the fans, nobody wants him there. But here he is, and he's digging his heels in. He's not coming to camp. So 2 questions, Freddie. 1, do you even think he plays this season if they keep him on the team? And 2, who blinks first? Does Harden decide to play, or does the team finally say, this is dumb, we just need to get rid of him?
It's easy, Chris. This makes Dwayne Wade look beautiful. It makes him, on his Hall of Fame weekend, this makes him look even better, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll explain that in a minute. James Harden is going to have to blink first. He's going to have to play. He's 34 years old. He can't sit out a year. He cannot. If he was in his 20s, he was 25 years of age, then, okay, we have a problem. Philadelphia need to panic. 76ers, Daryl Morey, they need to make a move now. He's 34. He'd be 35 after this year. He's already digressing. He's already not the same player. And a year older, he's definitely going to lose where he at now. I mean, I'm just getting so sick and tired of this guy. I mean, he it's but the reason why I say this make Dwayne Wade looks good because that brother there sacrificed to win. He did what he had to do to be able to win on the biggest level. And this dude right here, it just shows that he's all about the money. He's all about the money. He don't care about winning. He do not care about winning. He's not a winner. He's pathetic. I mean, I'm tired of this dude. You leave Houston, you was averaging 30 points a game, so many years in a row, you was doing this, you was doing that, you wanted to win. You go to Brooklyn. We understand it was because of the Kyrie Irving situation. You were willing to sacrifice him. You go to Philadelphia to play with the MVP and Joel Embiid. You had a decent year, and then in the playoffs, you had decent moments in the playoffs. But you're not James Harden of old. You're not averaging 30 points a game. You are at best the second to third option on that team. And who are you? And then this, by the way, this is all because of you, James Harden. You didn't have to opt into your contract. You could have opted out, and you could have gone wherever you wanted to go. But you was chasing the bag. You're not trying to win. You opted in. So it's business, like Mo said. I'm not paying you all that money. I'm not even giving you a long-term deal. You're 34 years of age. You're not the same guy. If it's about winning, man up. Put your big boy britches on, get to work, and let's try to win. Oh, man, I'm just getting tired of this dude. And I really hope if Philadelphia back down on their words, I will trash them for the rest of my life. Because that'll be a trash decision from a trash organization. Philadelphia, you want my respect? Man up and say, you know what? You don't come, sit out. Hold that position. Be just like Portland with Damian Lillard. You don't show the work, sit out. And don't you just waste another year of your career. And we'll see if you'll be the next version of Zion Williamson eating Twinkies and donkeys, whatever they call them.
So there's questions all across the NBA. Obviously, Philly has a lot of questions, but the Los Angeles teams have a couple of questions as well.
Hold on. What? Los Angeles? Did you say Los Angeles?
Los Angeles teams.
I didn't know the Kings was on Los Angeles.
So we're going to start with the Clippers, and we're going to start with this question for you, Mo. Is it time to move on from Kawhi and Paul George? Is the experiment over, or are we going to keep holding out hope that these two can just be healthy at the same time long enough to do something on the court? What time, in your perspective, when is it time to pull the cord and just break it up?
Well, I think this season is their last season together. And I'm not even sure they make it out of the season together because depending on where they're at in the trade deadline, one of them's going to get moved on. But you pointed this out to me before, Chris. They're opening up a new arena. You got to have names to put seats or put people in the seats. So they're going to keep at least one of them. And my guess is the better player is Kawhi. You're going to keep Kawhi. So to me, Paul George is actually the guy that at some point, maybe this season or next, they're going to move on from them. The experiment, it wasn't that it didn't work. It was that they couldn't stay healthy long enough to give it a chance to work. The only time they were healthy, they blew a 3-1 lead. The only time they were healthy. So we saw what it could have been, but they just can't stay on the floor together. I do think, though, when you look at their franchise, that duo is in a different situation than the Tatum and Brown duo. Those two guys are still in their mid-20s. The other two guys are in their early 30s, and you could argue maybe they're older because of the toll and the injuries they've had on their bodies. So I think the experiment is coming to an end. It's just a matter of when they pull the plug, because going forward, they still have to find a way to excite and give hope to their season ticket holders when they move into that new arena. Now, you could do something radical and maybe move them both this season in anticipation of bringing in another star, a younger piece. You could do something like that, but the way their contracts are structured, I don't see them being able to move both of those guys, Chris. I think big picture, you know what? Maybe I should go like this: the guy that gets traded will be the guy that's the most healthy. That's sad, but the guy that's the most healthy going into the trade deadline will be the guy that might get traded, because that's been the case with the Clippers basically throughout their run. we've had a lot of what ifs and what they could have been, and then we've had a lot of disappointment because neither guy can be on the floor because of injuries. Their bodies have just broken down, and every time they've built them back up, they've broken down again. And while I don't wish injury on anybody, the Clippers are going to be really good early in the season, and then somebody's going to break down, and we're going to start asking those same questions that we always ask every season. So the plug will get pulled. It's just a matter of when.
Now, Freddie, if you were running the Clippers, if you had ownership stake in the Clippers, and you're not allowed to sell them, you can't go sell them, buy ownership stake in the Lakers. That's not allowed in this situation. So if you were running that, I know. So if you were running that team, what do you do? What do you do with these two guys? You hanging on to them? You moving one? You moving two? What's the future?
I'm starting all of you for complete rebuild. They're not going to win anything with them. They're not going to win anything without them. That franchise is cursed. It's a black cat running around that franchise. They pretty much just helped the Lakers pay the light bill at the cryptoarena.com arena. I mean, let's just be honest. And, it's really, and if I'm being serious, it's really sad to the point that it's like that because I like Ballmer as an owner. I really do. Ballmer is a guy that's not afraid to spend money. He's not afraid to do the splashy move to try to help win, but it's just always something that holds him back. And I remember when Kawhi won the last championship in Toronto, everybody was so ready to make him the best player in the league. Oh, he's the best. And then where's the best been since then? I'm just saying, the dude can't stay healthy. He's not that interested in playing basketball. He's not. We criticize Anthony Davis, but at least Anthony Davis trying. And even when he's healthy, AD's not just taking nights off. It's just. That's just that to that point. LeBron James in year 21 don't take nights off unless he's hurt. But Kawhi Leonard, you're young and you cheat the game. I would never have respect for a guy because I would be pissed off. I would go to a game and I don't see a dude there. I would be pissed off. But the expectation was for this team to win championship. This team has had the best talent around them too ever since they've been there. I bet the Clippers regret trading SGA for Paul George now. They seen what that brother doing in Oklahoma City. They definitely regret that decision. This is just bad, and it's just also it's time to have a conversation, you guys, about the logo, Jerry West. He's a part of the organization. He's the consultant. He's helping making those decisions. This definitely question yo, Jerry West, what are we doing here, brother? Like the decisions that you're making. It is so bad that Russell Westbrook had a horrible season with the Lakers, a horrible year and a half with the Lakers, and he goes up to the Clippers and he's the savior. It's really gotten that bad, you guys. So I'm blowing it up. I'm trading them both. Give me these draft picks. Give me young guys. Whatever you got to give me. It's a fire sale. The only person that I wouldn't trade on that team is Terrence Mann. That's about it.
To be fair, with Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers knew his situation. His situation with his knees they're chronic. Freddie is not one of those he picks when he feels good or not. He has chronic issues with his knees, and they knew that going in when they signed him. And they knew that going in when they signed him, he was never going to play 70, 75 games. They already knew that. So I would just push back on the idea that he's a quitter. I would argue that he's not. Now, he might not be a rah-rah guy, and he don't talk a lot, but I would say that he's not a quitter. Last year against the Suns, the man scored 68 points in 2 games on a torn meniscus. How many people are playing on a torn meniscus at all? So I wouldn't call him a quitter. I would just say he's unfortunate when it comes to health.
Mo, there was times where the team thought he was playing because they said he was healthy and he still didn't play, brother. That dude quit on his team. I understand. I like Paul. I remember I like Kawhi Leonard. I remember his game, but we just seen LeBron James playing a torn tendon. That injury is the next thing to a torn Achilles. So at year 20, it's almost at 40 years old. So I'm just saying.
And Freddie, you bring up LeBron James, and I'm glad you did it because that's where we're going next. If
Chris, I want to say something before you go. I don't know what question marks the Lakers have, but I'd love to listen to this.
Yeah, we're ready for it. If Andre Iguodala retires this season, doesn't play, LeBron James will officially be the oldest player in the NBA. So let's start with the great stuff, right? LeBron averaged 28.9 points last year as a 38-year-old. shattering the previous record held by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which was 23.4. And then only two other players in league history, Michael Jordan and Karl Malone, have averaged more than 14.2 points per game at the age LeBron is going to be this year. Freddie, my question is this. There's going to come a point where LeBron takes the dive off the cliff. I'm not saying it's this year. I'm not saying it's next year. But my question to you is when it happens, what happens with LeBron? Is it graceful? Is it something that LA can survive if it happens mid-season? Because their father time is undefeated. We all know this. We look at the NFL. We saw it with Brady. We definitely saw it with Peyton Manning. And sometimes it sneaks up on you quick. I mean, Cam Newton went one day from above average quarterback to he couldn't play in the league anymore. So, and I'm not saying Cam and LeBron are the same type of athlete, but I'm just saying greatness all takes a hit by father time. In your opinion, when it happens to LeBron, if it's during a season, what does that look like? Is it graceful? Is he going to stay in there? Is he one of those guys who plays too long and it's just looking rough? How do you see it shaking out?
I'm going to be honest with you, and this is no shot at him. It's kind of hard to have. But the thing is, he's so athletic, it's kind of hard to tell. Because, I mean, it's really, when it comes to LeBron, it's really going to depend on health and his mind, like he always say. His shot might go away, in which we've seen a lot of later in his career. He's taking a lot more three-point shots. That's just because he just, he probably just can't take the physical abuse at every drive of the game like he used to be able to. But he's so athletic and so in shape that the dude can run down the lane and people still going to move away because he's still a locomotive and he can still give you about 20, 25 points. Now, I don't see him averaging 28 points this year, not because I think he's going to digress, just think his team don't need him to do that on an every given night basis. Because I really believe that this is in order for this team to move, Anthony Davis has to be the best player. And that's not a shot because we've seen that was a formula in the playoffs where LeBron seemed like he was a second or third option at times in the playoffs. But he has digressed, some of his game. And we've seen it the last couple of years. Like I said, he's been taking more jump shots than he ever have, taking way more three-point shots than he ever have in his career as well. So it's really going to be about how healthy he is and his mind of wanting to continue to do it.
What are your thoughts, Mo?
I think he'll age gracefully. I don't think he'll finish his career on the Lakers, but I think he'll age gracefully. I think that he'll do what he's always done. If he feels like his run with the Lakers is over and he doesn't see them being a championship caliber team, he'll move on to a better situation. But I don't doubt that he'll play well even as he gets older because he could go in the post. If he can't do it on the perimeter and still be an effective player, he's still got an incredible high basketball IQ, great passer. So him aging well, I think he's already shattered that. He's going to continue to do that. The question is, well, for me, the question would be, will it be with the Lakers? And my gut feeling is he won't finish his career with the Lakers.
I'm gonna rebuttal that, not rebuttal, but kind of comment. The difference between him and Kobe being Bryant was health. I really believe Kobe could have played longer and better if he didn't have he dealt with a lot of major injuries toward the end. The Achilles, he dealt with a shoulder injury. His was more of injuries. And then on the Lakers aspect of LeBron, I don't see him going anywhere else. I'm gonna be honest with you. I really thought he was gonna leave after this Bronny situation, play with Bronny, but it's up in the air about Bronny right now, you guys. And Lord, and we asked for him to heal and get back to where he was, but it's up in the air right now. It really is. And we don't know how that's going to look. We don't know where that's going to be. But I think he have a better chance of playing with Bryce at this point than Bronny.
And gentlemen, we're going to wrap up the show today talking about quarterbacks. I want to know which of these four quarterbacks is under the most pressure this season. You got Aaron Rodgers, leaving the situation in Green Bay where he was made to look a certain way, coming to the New York Jets where he's apparently a new man. Aaron Rodgers, he loves the young guys. He's taking them to concerts. He's taking them to dinners. He's doing the hard knocks. He's the rah-rah guy now. He's giving millions of dollars back to the team. So we got the new look Aaron Rodgers in New York. We got, throw those picks, Dak Prescott, right? You know, he wins divisions. He goes to the playoffs. He doesn't go to the playoffs. No matter where he is, he's still throwing picks. But once again, the Dallas Cowboys are projected to win their division, and they're in that NFC championship conversation because the NFC is not the greatest conference. So by default, Dak is easily a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the NFC because what else is over there besides Jalen Hurts? You got Russell Wilson coming off the train wreck season that was the Denver Broncos last year. New head coach who's fair or not fair, raised those expectations by trashing everything that happened last season and saying Russ was not the issue. And then you got good old Josh Allen hiding up there in Western New York and Buffalo, where every year Josh Allen, the Bills are Super Bowl contenders, but they just can't seem to break through. Mo, let's start with you. Who of those 4 is under the most pressure this season?
I think it's Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott is under the most pressure. Everybody looks at the Dallas Cowboys and says, talent-wise, they've got a top 5 defense. They've got playmakers at all 3 levels on defense. They've got talent at the skill position, and they've got a solid offensive line, maybe one of the better O-lines in all of the NFL. What you need is just consistent and solid play from QB1. I'm not even saying throw for 4,500 yards, 40 touchdowns, but just solid, consistent play. If they got that from QB1, they're probably going to be in the conference championship game. So I think that he has the most pressure. And I would honestly say, Chris, he doesn't seem to be handling very well so far. Like, we've yet to get to the regular season. If you're struggling in practice, if you're not doing well in 7-on-7 drills, and then you're struggling in the preseason with all that pressure and all those expectations, it doesn't look well. But I'll say this, I do believe that he'll turn it around. I think the guy's made of sterner stuff. I've never saw him as an elite quarterback, but I've always thought he could be a good quarterback. So if they can feature the run game and be less Dak-centric and make him more of a compliment, because he shouldn't be the guy. He should be a compliment to all the weapons around him. If they do that, then they're going to do well. But if they put all the pressure on him, I don't think he's going to handle it well. I really think that it really is about what they do in terms of how they build their offense. Is it all about Dak and we win or lose because of Dak, or is it because Dak has been solid with all the other talent around him? That's the biggest question, because if they make it all about him, he's going to fail.
And Freddie, before we get to you, I want to ask you this. I want to throw some names at you, all right? Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins, Justin Herbert, all right? Everyone throws picks in practice, correct?
Sure.
Are any of those quarterbacks being disrespected in their face at practice by their defensive backs every time they throw a pick? No. What do you make of that? What do you make? Because I saw a Cowboy fan push that under the rug, heat of the moment, it's just practice. And I sat there saying to myself, I get it, but no one's talking to their other quarterbacks that way. No cornerback or safety, I don't care who you are, especially when your quarterback has the bag and is the franchise player of this team, to walk up to him, and it was disrespectful. Am I wrong?
No, I'm with you 100%. I feel like they don't view him as a leader. They view him as he is the quarterback and he got the bag and all those things, but I don't think they see him as the guy. I think that within that locker room, they look at other people like a Micah Parsons or someone else as the leader of that team. I don't think they see Dak Prescott in that light. And to me, like you said, that would never happen to Mahomes. That wouldn't happen to Joe Burrow. But the lack of respect that he has in his own locker room, that's troubling.
Freddie, is Dak the one for you with the most pressure, or is it somebody else?
In order to have pressure, you have to have expectations, you guys. Nobody has expectations for the Cowboys. Only Cowboy fans has expectations for them. Stop it, y'all. He's a bad, bad, bad man in Aaron Rodgers. I love this man, Rodgers. Y'all know that. He's under the most pressure, and here's why. We all know how the breakup was between him and Green Bay. We know he was pissed off that he drafted the quarterback right after that he won an MVP, went to the playoffs. We all know what was the problem. He complained they didn't have a defense. Complained that they didn't have weapons when they traded Devontae Adams. There was that the Green Bay was not willing to do this, was not willing to do that. The Jets have done all of it. Aaron Rodgers say get him, they get him. They say give him a list of people to get, they get him. Aaron Rodgers, the Aaron Rodgers have done what the Jets have done with Aaron Rodgers have wanted. They have a solid defense. They have weapons. They have a running game. They have a questionable line. They have a coach. They have the offensive coordinator. They have everything but the line that Aaron Rodgers wanted. And it looks like I wouldn't be surprised he get his old right tackle back in Green Bay. He won't out. Hey, keep an eye out on that, ladies and gentlemen. But there comes a time and place where we gave you all of that. It's time for you to deliver. It's time for Aaron Rodgers to not come up short in the playoffs. It's time for him to show us why he's the most accurate passer of the football. It's the reason why it's time for him to show us that he can show up in the playoffs when it matters. And I'm telling you, it got harder because now he didn't have to play these quarterbacks in the playoffs in the NFC. He got to play against a Joe Burrow, a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes, a Tua, a Russell Wilson, a Herbert. There's a lot of guys in the AFC that is dangerous, that is up there in skill level as him. So, hey, it's going to be ready.
And Freddie, like you said, it's interesting because I almost look at it as the desperation from the Jets to do all that. The Jets are so starved at quarterback from basically missing on their last two big swings at quarterback from a draft perspective that they were willing to pay the money, to give in to the list, to bring in the friends, to bring in Hackett after the embarrassment that was last season in Denver, to do all this stuff for Aaron. And I get it. It's a give and take relationship, and Aaron's giving back to them too. But like you said, Freddie, what he needs to give back is W's. And once those W's happen, he needs to give back success in the playoffs. Because let's be honest, talk to a New York Jets fan. They're not talking about 9 or 10 wins. They're talking about 12 or 13 wins. They're talking about competing for the division, and they're not talking about just being happy to make the playoffs. Jet fans' baseline is making the playoffs. That's what the expectation is. And then they're hoping for success past that. If they miss the playoffs, whoo, things are going to start burning in New York. And I don't know who's going to survive that fire, gentlemen. All right, guys, we have reached the time here on the Coffee and Sports Morning Show. What a great morning it was. Make sure you are here every single morning for Coffee and Sports here for Sports Empire Network. It was an honor, gentlemen. Honor being here with you. Before we get out of here, give you each 10 seconds. Say what you got to the listeners.
Just
start it off, Mo.
Just catch me here Monday through Friday on Coffee Sports in the Morning on Sports Empire Network.
Just stay tuned to Sports Empire Network. Cheap seats will not be going live this evening. We are revamping, doing a lot of revamping. So just stay tuned with us, stick with us. Just thank everybody for all the support and love. And hey, man, we coming, we grinding.
All right, right back here, same time tomorrow morning, gentlemen. Have a good one.